Revolutionary talk for revolutionary times. Promoting peace, liberty, and prosperity around the clock. LibertyTalk.fm.
Welcome to Living in Solution with Dr. Lena George. Today I have one of my favorite guests on, somebody who's extremely popular, by the way. My listeners love her. We're going to speak with the Common Core Diva, Miss Lynne Taylor. And, we have a series going, Lynn, and every time you come on, it's like, oh my gosh, what else do I don't know? So today we're going to speak about something I don't think people know about this. Agenda 2030 is out there. People are starting to get more in tune with the word sustainable and, 15-minute cities and climate change and all these other things that are going on. But I don't think people are keying into developmental goal or development goals and what that really means and what what they are attempting to do. We speak about education, but this is more pervasive than that, isn't it?
Well, absolutely, Dr. Elena, and thank you so much. It's always such a joy to be with you and your audience, and I'm so glad that they are learning so much from us because, that is why we do what we do. But the Sustainable Development Goals are from the United Nations, and we know the Luciferian roots are totally anti-God. So just basically think anything that you know to be good, right, and pure. These goals go after and absolutely put it under the most draconian, barbaric parameters known to man. And the thing is there's such a sales pitch going on with them about, oh, well, we're going to have no poverty. We're going to have no hunger. Everyone's going to have a great education. Everyone's going to have a great job. You're going to have a great city, and we're going to take care, and everybody's going to, be happy and sing kumbaya. And nothing could be further from the truth, because what they actually mean is to deceive you into thinking that they're from the government and they're going to help you, into the fact of, no, we're from the government and we are here to control your every move.
It seems like it's the mantra that underlies everything that they espouse. Every time people should really their ears should prick up when they say absolutes like no poverty, no hunger, nobody goes uneducated. That means something different in that system than it does for an average person.
Well, absolutely. Yes, it does. And the sales pitch is through the culture. It's through the colors, because they have gone into, and when I say they, not just the United Nations, but the groups that work with them, including the United Nations Catholic Women's Organization, because they help come up with the color scheme for a lot of these. But I want you, when you hear it, and this is in my article that was on the American Policy, where it was talking about the Sustainable Development Goal number 2, which is no hunger. And in it, I put an image, and I'm going to read it real quickly, Dr. Elena, and then I will let you have it back. Now, here's how the Sustainable Development Goals are being sold as. Number 1 is no poverty. What that actually means, if you actually survive long enough to be under these goals, it would mean that you would own nothing, and everyone else around you would own nothing. No hunger. Well, you eat nothing or what you're told or very little. Number 3 is good health and well-being. Well, that is that your mental health, as well as the rest of your health, is tracked and managed for you. Number 4, we know, is quality education. You're taught only the Sustainable Development Goal skills. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. Number 5 is gender equality. Well, we don't need that because there won't be any genders. Number 6, clean water and sanitation. Well, that will be only for those who conform to the United Nations. The same thing for number 7, which is affordable clean energy. Again, only to those who conform. We have number 8, which is decent work for all, and the economy. Well, the skill that you learned in number 4 will be your job, and it will not be your job. It will be you're working for someone, because again, you're not going to have anywhere that is your own or food that's your own. All right. We also have number 9, which is industry, innovation, and infrastructure. Well, your neighborhood is your prison. Number 10, reduce inequalities. Well, that will be rulers versus subjects. Sustainable cities is number 11. You are spied on everywhere you go. Number 12 is responsible consumption and production. This will be the rulers consume, but you don't. Number 13, climate action. Well, science is manipulated to rule us. Number 14, life underwater. No beach access, no access to anything that's in the ocean. Number 15 is life on land. The rulers own it, you don't. Number 16, peace, justice, and strong organizations. This is tyrannical rule with no peace or true justice, not in the way that we know it to be. And then lastly, number 17 is partnerships for the goals. And that is, in reality, everyone must conform.
This is not an environment that I think is conducive to individual pursuit of happiness, to put it mildly. Parents being able to parent their child, people being able to choose their destiny in terms of what they want to pursue as a job, where they want to live, and what they want to eat. I mean, this is living, basically, is about to be under the system controlled from cradle to grave.
Absolutely. And we've been talking about this sort of thing on and off for 2 years now?
Mm-hmm. So the education system is the fulcrum for this to happen. We know, I think that the older generation knows what came before. We're a problem, right? But if you start off from preschool, or actually in the womb, if you want to go there, with you don't even know what good is, you don't know what freedom is, you don't have any frame of reference to complain, they must be chomping at the bit for this next generation to become adult, because that's not going to give them any pushback or resistance.
Oh, no, and it's already happening. I mean, if you look in the news right now, Montana supposedly just made history because the youth, a particular group of youth there in the state, took the state to court and said, you've impeded on my right to breathe free air because, after all the fossil fuels are just clogging up the air and making my life awful. We won't go into the ludicrousness of this, but we're already seeing some of these labors come to fruition. Now, one of the questions I think in prepping that you had me get ready for was you wanted to talk about what these particular goals were, which we just did. You wanted to talk about the color psychology. So if you're ready for that, let's jump into that.
Yes, you sure can.
Okay. Now, I want you to think, when you are advertising something or when you see an advertisement, there's always careful attention to the colors, the wording, everything about it. And I want you to think about the psychology that's used in marketing. And the United Nations used this to their advantage. So very quickly, and this is from a website where it goes into the particular psychology behind the colors. Anything that you see in yellow in marketing, and I want you to think like, I don't know, your favorite product that has a yellow background. That's supposed to be clarity or warm, and it's supposed to promote optimism. Now think about your favorite product or ad where you see orange. Well, that's supposed to be cheerful and confident. This is supposed to promote friendliness. Red, well, that's supposed to represent youthful and bold or promoting excitement. Purple or lilac, well, that's going to be imaginative or wise. And let me point out real quick, there is no purple or lilac in the Sustainable Development Goal logos. And here's why, because it's supposed to promote creativity. Blue is supposed to represent dependable and strong and promote trust. Green is supposed to bring about minds of growth and health. And it's supposed to promote peacefulness. And then gray and white, which are used in the wording, are supposed to represent neutral and calm and should promote balance. Now, that's from a marketing standpoint. What the United Nations did was they took all 17, broke it into shades of the ones that I've just gone over, with the exception of lilac or purple, and put their spin on it. But they're also color-coded to match either Agenda 2015 or some other things. For example, any of the Sustainable Development Goals that are red or pink, and that would be poverty, education, that would also be reduced inequalities. All of those I want you to think that you have a picture that has no frame. Well, the frame is what the UN is going to put around the picture. Okay, so they're providing the frame and they'll provide the picture that you're holding. Anything that's orange, and that would be the gender equality, the industry, infrastructure, and innovation, those are going to be post 2015 Sustainable Development Goal decisions, but there's not enough collectivism yet in our world, so we still have to work on those. Now, anything that's yellow, that would be the affordable and clean energy, the sustainable cities, the no hunger. Let's see, I think that was it on those. That is supposed to be, well, we don't have enough partners on board just yet, so we got to really keep working on these goals. Blue, again, post 2015, but there's not enough legislation, and that would represent the peace, justice, strong institutions, the life underwater, the life on land. We also have the clean water and sanitation. And then finally, anything that's in green. These were agreed on in 2015, but will be continued to be harped on to railroad the agenda over all of us. And that would include the climate action, the life on land, the good health, the well-being. And there you go.
So there is no accident that we see climate change being driven, driven home every chance they get. I just saw a commercial yesterday where somebody was talking about climate change and how it was affecting, life as we live. I mean, it was just like, do you ever read a book? Do you understand what CO2 really is? I mean, it's like it was the worst thing in the world. We need CO2 to survive.
Well, we also need the trees to take it.
Exactly.
So that we can breathe and still survive. But climate change is attached to Sustainable Development Goal number 2, which is supposed to be, no hunger. Now, what that means, what the system wants you to think when you hear no hunger, Dr. Elena, is that everyone is going to have something to eat.
Exactly.
They're not. And climate change, just like nuclear energy and all kinds of infrastructure and everything else, all these goals are woven into each other. So hunger doesn't stand by itself. Education doesn't stand by itself. They're all interconnected. But how they're going to use climate change in this particular instance in railroading the fact that we're going to have to get the United States better on board with the Sustainable Development Goals as far as no hunger is we're going to sit here and talk about Latin America and how climate change has totally mucked up the entire playing field. So I want you to think, in other words, this is going to continue to prop up the junk science and involve more public-private partnerships.
Now, we're going to take a break in a minute or so, but I want to start the conversation with watch the news. I mean, if you're looking at what's going on, there has to be something, a voice in the back of your mind saying, if everybody's supposed to be eat, not have any hunger, we're seeing whole farms shut down in the Netherlands, literally. We're seeing South Africa where the farmers are being decimated. Breadbasket areas within Africa, Europe are being removed and shut down. Here in the United States as well, right? We've got fires and all sorts of things, droughts. How on earth did they expect that principle to come to fruition when they're literally shutting down farms in the name of climate change, which makes absolutely no sense? And I actually saw an article where they cut down acres of trees for wind farms. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't seem like they're trying to help nature, or
no,
it's like they're getting rid of nature to make this thing come to fruition. So I want you to think about that. So we'll take our first break and come back and let you answer when we return. You're living in the solution. Welcome back to Living Solution. We're speaking with the Common Core Diva, Miss Lynne Taylor. And before the break, I tried to give people a frame of reference that the things that they're espousing for everybody eating, they're getting rid of. They're killing cattle. There's thousands of cattle, heads of cattle have died in the United States. They've killed chickens. There's cutting down forests. shutting down farms. How do they jibe with this, Lynn, that you're going to feed the whole world, but you're removing the source of food production?
Well, you're removing the natural source, the God-given source, and you're replacing it with artificial. You're replacing it with things that we were never physically enabled to eat. In other words, think about, okay, the big example right now is the shift of bugs. If you look at our digestive system, we physically were never designed to eat bugs and be okay. There are certain bugs out there, Dr. Elena, that carry more diseases and carry more proteins that our bodies cannot break down. And thus, by eating them in large quantities, we will become sicker and more disease ridden. But how wonderful for those who are on the other side of this, because they'll get to manage you even more. Because if you're sick, you're more manageable, you're more easily coerced. If you're hungry, you're going to be more manipulated. But let's think about this in another way. If it's not artificial food, it's going to be the fact that you are worth more, not as a living, breathing person, but as some sort of computer image. And that's the way that the artificial intelligence is playing into this. And when you hear the fact that you've got nuclear type technology coming in to solve hunger problems, that should be a wake up call for everybody. But the thing that got me even to thinking about writing this particular article that we're discussing is the fact that the Congress, the federal departments that are involved are willingly doing with our tax dollars this harm to us, as well as trying to plan harm to others. And we're supposed to be okay with this, and we're supposed to nod along and go, oh yeah, let's get everybody on board, because after all, nobody needs to be hungry. And that goes back to the Bible. We were told to feed and clothe, but it wasn't the government, it was the people.
I agree. And the government's trying to take over the role of everything: parent, spouse, caregiver. It's becoming the overriding umbrella that everybody needs to be beholden to and
Right.
be, for their existence, need to go through. I mean, you're right. This is such a big picture. We keep getting distracted with social issues, with episodes that happen that get amplified, that really may question some of them if they're really true. I don't know. But it's making us so angry and so frustrated and wanting to give up. I mean, I'm reading statistics that I never thought I would read. The young population, at the level of suicide, for example, has
Yeah.
gone through the roof. And if you don't have a will to live and a feeling of well-being about what your future can be, you really have to question this system, don't you?
Well, absolutely. But this is something that we've seen, and people are wondering, well, why is it at an all-time high? I don't know that that it is truly at an all-time high, or that's the headline that we're supposed to be buying into, so that we will look so far the other way that we don't see what's going on over on the other side of the aisle, so to speak.
It's a good point. I mean, it's distraction and it's manipulation, and it's really just exhausting, honestly. We
Right, but
keep,
this is how the UN operates, and it always has. But I want us to stop and think. Back in the 114th session of Congress, we're currently in the 118th. Okay, so go
Mhm.
back just a few administrations. There was a U.S. public law that was called the Global Food Security Act, and it's been used present day in Congress for, get this, now this was just the top set of bills. There are a plethora over at congress.gov. Just type in food and you'll get them. Senate Bill 436, this is the SAFE Act, or the Securing Allies Food in Emergencies Act. Senate Bill 1227, the Fish Act, which is Fighting Foreign Illegal Seafood Harvests Act. HR 598, this is Earth Act to Stop Climate Pollution by 2030. S 2312, will include the Department of Agriculture as well as Health and Human Services as new members of a 1950 Defense Production Act, which will attach itself to foreign investments on U.S. soil. H.R. 4577 will increase the amount of land the U.S. government can acquire both domestically and by foreign investments. H.R. 2364 will limit funding for fiscal year 2024 in global agriculture and food security budgets. H.R. 1219, cybersecurity to secure the food industry. And lastly, H.R. 4368, the federal appropriations for the U.S. Departments of Agriculture, the Food and Drug Administration, Rural Development, and every other related agency to these. Now, they're using every one of these, Dr. Elena, to come in and basically say, well, we don't represent we the people, and we're not going to do what's best for Americans. We're going to go out here and we're going to do what our lobbyists and our corporate partnerships are creating on a global scale. And whether you like it or not, America, you're going to pay with your tax money, and you're going to be okay with it.
Seems like the overriding way that things are done now. It's taking our money to work against us. And
Right.
you've made it an example about our food, and the FDA comes to mind because they just approved using fake meat and other artificial things, bioengineered food, entering our food supply, like A-peel, for example. People
Right.
need to look that up. There's no testing with this. It's just a conglomerate or corporate interest driving the market. But I don't see any real pushback in terms of what testing has been done, what safety studies have been done. That seems to be the underlying thing that happens when they have an innovation.
Right. Well, if there has been a test, we've not seen it. But, it might be the fact of, all right, think about the Sackler family when they were doing what they did with Oxycontin.
Mm-hmm.
They marketed the crud out of that as this wonder drug. Didn't show us the testing, didn't show us a lot of the things that were going on. And, oh, look at the mess that we're in. But guess what? The national, hang on just a second. Hang on, I lost my place. It is whoops, I'm so sorry about that. It is the National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine, and they are the ones who recently had this all-day webinar about how America could really reduce SGD2, no hunger, if they just got everybody on board. But here's who funds them. Are you ready? 70% comes from the federal government. The 30%, the Sackler family. Ooh, there's our number one family. Chevron, Google, Medtronic, Merck. Then you also have the Nathan Cummings Foundation, the Smith Richardson Foundation, the Ford Foundation, the Sloan Foundation, Kellogg Foundation, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the Milnor Foundation, Arnold Ventures, MacArthur Foundation, Walton Foundation, and Hewlett-Packard Foundation.
That's an amazing amount of corporate interest and money. I think, that mantra, it just stands as a truism. You need to follow the money, because even if you're going into the scientific side of this, you have to look at these foundations underwriting these experiments and these, think tanks and all the things that go into this system to create the endpoint